Welcome to Connection Oasis. We're Hope and Renee, two friends sharing our stories, lessons, and laughter.
Everyone who's crossed our path has taught us something about ourselves, and that's what we explore here: connection, growth, and a little humor along the way.
Well, we have reached the final chapter in our book, and it's a little surreal, honestly. We've spent all this time walking through our stories, our so many mistakes, and our discoveries, and the lessons that we learned along the way. And we've finally arrived at the very last chapter.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect chapter to end the book with because it sounds incredibly simple. Choose happy, two
Hmm.
words, that's it. But when you really sit with it, it's so much more complicated.
Yeah, I think most people hear that phrase and immediately have a reaction. I think some people
Mhm.
might love it, and some people might actually hate it. And some people, and I think this is a lot of people, might think it sounds completely unrealistic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was me in the beginning. The first time I ever heard it, um, and really honestly for most of my life, I just felt like, life and the things that it throws at you get to determine how you feel every day.
Mm,
If good things happen, then you get to be happy. But if bad things happen, I have to be anxious. I have to feel overwhelmed. I have to feel, angry or hurt or sad or all of those.
mhm.
Um, and I felt like I just am constantly having to react to life instead of, being able to choose the way that I participate in my life. My anxiety as a kid was just completely overwhelming. And I really honestly believed that I didn't have any control over what life was going to throw at me or how it made me feel.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. And I even had a similar experience, but mine did look a lot different. I believed that life was constantly trying to push me somewhere I didn't want to go.
Mhm.
And if I didn't like that direction, then I would force a completely different outcome, not necessarily a better one, just just a different one. And so control became how I dealt with feeling unhappy sometimes.
Yeah, I can remember hearing the phrase that happiness is a choice that you make, and honestly, it just rattled around in my head for so long because to my mind, if happiness is a choice, why can't I just choose it? You
Mhm.
know? Why can't
Yeah.
I just decide today I'm gonna be happy and for it to happen?
Mhm.
Why is it so hard? Um, and then over time, I realized something really important, that there's a distinction between choosing happy and choosing circumstances. You don't always get to choose your circumstances, but you
Right.
do get to choose your perspective.
Mhm.
And, there is one experience that taught me better than anything else had. My daughter was in a car accident. She was hit by a dump truck.
Oh my god, what a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. She she called me. She's crying. She's hyperventilating. And her dad and we just jumped in the car and started driving. And during the whole drive, we were just both imagining the absolute worst case,
Mhm.
and when we get there to the scene, there's police cars, there's fire trucks, there's an ambulance, there's two dump trucks. And then as I'm scanning this scene, I see her car, and the damage was just, it was terrifying.
Oh.
It was just unbelievable. I was not ready for it. And
Yeah.
then I spot her in the back of the ambulance.
Ugh.
And when she sees me, my first thought is, thank God, like she's alive. But then she
Yeah.
like stands up and sees me, and she's she's calling mom, she's crying, but
Uh-huh.
she's alive. She's talking, like
Yeah,
she's
thank God.
standing up, you know? And in that moment, I realized that I did not care about that car at all.
Yeah,
And
right.
I did not care about dealing with the insurance company. I didn't care about, how inconvenient it was that now she doesn't have a car. The only
Mhm.
thing that mattered was that I saw her face calling to me, and
Mhm.
she is gonna be fine.
Yeah. Talk about talk about a real perspective change. I mean, that's those things you mentioned, the insurance claim, the car, all of that just seems so ridiculous in
Yeah,
that moment because you're focused on her. It's okay, but there are other days where those might seem like the worst thing in the world to have to deal with.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the situation was not good. There was a lot of hassles that were gonna come along with this, but I
Mhm.
immediately knew where my attention deserved to be.
Yeah.
And that specific situation really, it kind of clicked with me what choosing happy actually means. I didn't have to pretend that everything was fine.
Right.
I got to choose to focus on my daughter, which is what actually mattered out of this situation.
Yeah. Exactly. And I have a feeling that this goes back to something maybe your grandfather taught you at one point.
Yes. I think it goes back to when he used to tell me, some days you're the windshield and some days you're the bug. So I continue to be amazed at how right he was.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, life is going to happen. And we don't get to choose most of what happens to
For
us.
sure.
But what we do get to choose is the perspective that we view life from. And my granddad, he was my safe place, my role model, my best advisor, my biggest supporter. And when I lost him, I was devastated
Yeah.
still. um, but at the moment, the only thing that I could focus on was that he was gone. Um, and I spiraled for a while,
Mhm.
um, grief, emptiness, just hurt. Um, and then one day, I just was laughing about one of the things that he used to say. And just something started to shift. And I realized, wait a minute, I get to choose what I think about when I think about him. I don't have
Yeah.
to think about the fact that I lost him. I get to be so grateful that I had this time with him, and just I get to just look back and recall he was so much smarter than I even thought. He was my hero, but
Mhm.
he was even so much more instrumental in my life than I realized at the time.
I have been incredibly jealous that you had him and I didn't. And so, um, yeah. And so from the outside looking in, it is kind of like look at what you had, look at what you learned. You get to carry that with you for your entire life. But
Mhm.
sometimes that grief and that feeling of loss can overcome that, and it is a great day when you can realize, hey, wait, it doesn't have to be like this.
Oh, absolutely. I choosing happy doesn't mean that I have to deny feeling pain. Both things can
Mhm.
be true.
Mhm.
It means that I get to choose to feel so grateful and blessed along with feeling the pain that I felt and feel. It just means that appreciating what I had instead of focusing on what I've lost is the perspective I get to choose for myself.
Right. Right. And that's a huge transformation. So when we say choose happy, it really is not just, hey, who cares? Move on,
Right.
be happy. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
absolutely.
But it is about saying, okay, look, I can choose to be happy even in this difficult moment. I can find other things to focus on and It definitely it makes a big difference. I can catch myself sometimes being like, "Oh crap, this happened," and then I can be like, "Well, you know what? But that's cool. I'm fine. I wouldn't have chosen this, but it's fine. Like I'm
Mhm.
okay. Everybody's okay. Everybody's still alive." That's the technically the last chapter in the book. There is the tool shed at the end of the book. And I think that this is a really good time just to talk a little bit about why we put this in here and how it was alive in our daily lives. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have about growth and the journey of growth is that once you have an insight, that everything changes. That's all you need is to understand it better.
I wish that were true.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Because, having a huge realization, actually, it's a big thing to realize that something is way different or you have a completely different perspective than what you did, but you can still find yourself repeating the same pattern next week.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Understanding a lesson and implementing a lesson are just two completely different things. So
Hmm.
that's why we chose to include the tool shed. The tools aren't some magic fix, but these are things that helped us get unstuck and start to process things in a meaningful way. And then they helped us continue growing and sort of identifying actions that we might be able to take when we didn't know what to do next.
Yes, absolutely. And what I found absolutely fascinating, while we were dealing with a lot of the same topics, they showed up very differently in our world. And
Hmm.
so we didn't use the same tools to get through those situations. And some things that changed my life, you couldn't even like finish the book because it just did not resonate. And vice versa. Some things that transform your
Hmm.
life completely and that you read over and over and over again or watch over and over again, like didn't do anything for me. So that's why we both included our separate tools.
Exactly. The tool shed isn't a list, it's not, instructions. It's just an invitation. Like sometimes you don't know what to try and where to turn. And so hopefully trying some of the things that helped us would help, even if it's just a little, or even if it's just the feeling of taking a step. Keep what works, leave what
Hmm.
doesn't, find other things. But a starting point, I think, is helpful to everyone. So for me, books were big, conversations were just priceless. Sometimes a book would give me the words or the language to explain something that I'd felt and couldn't really articulate. So
Yeah.
sometimes a conversation would help me see a blind spot. And then once you see that thing, you can't unsee it. so
Yes.
so then you can actually find an action to begin making the changes you want to make.
Right. And for an example, I mean, books are also on my list. They were a huge
Hmm.
thing for me too. But there are some books that I absolutely love. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer and Daring Greatly by Brene Brown were huge for me.
Hmm.
Also, the Art of Empathy and You Can Heal Your Life. Those were also huge for me. But I think I gave you all of those books, and I don't think you read any of them past the first couple chapters.
I did read The Untethered Soul.
Okay.
I read that one all the way through. I did read The Art of Empathy too. The
Oh, did
other
you?
two, I did not make it all the way through. Psycho Cybernetics, I cannot tell you how many times I've read it, and literally every time I do, a different chapter blows my mind in a different way.
Yeah. And that's one where I want to love that book, but it's difficult for me. It does not speak my language. Just try different books that you can find or that other people have found some value in and ask them like, okay, what did you like about it? And,
Mhm.
it may or may not speak to you, but here are a couple, to get you started.
Exactly.
For me, tools like journaling, letter burning was huge,
Hmm.
counseling, meditation, even Reiki. Just like you said earlier, I think you put it perfectly. Sometimes they give you a language to speak to different things you've been experiencing that you didn't have before. And so
Hmm.
when I journaled, Sometimes I would journal just my thoughts, and then when I would write letters, I had a very specific purpose
Mhm.
in mind that, this is going to be everything that I want to say, and then I'm going to burn it, and that was huge for me.
Yes. I love that. And the other thing that's amazing about that is that as I was just reading some articles online, there's now science backed reasons why the letter burning is a very important tool. You write it down and it moves it from one part of your brain to the other. So I feel like sometimes we doubt the validity of some things. You can't follow it scientifically, but I feel like the science is going to catch up eventually to
Mhm.
all of these things and
Yeah,
they'll be validated.
I agree. We both have done our fair share of counseling, and
Mhm.
finding that right counselor therapist is huge if you really want to dig deep. I think a lot of counselors are well equipped to walk you through certain situations and issues and help you get the basics. But if you really want to dig deep and get to the root causes and really fix some things, find someone you feel like you can really resonate with for a couple of years and stick with
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I do think that's important. My counselor helped me. I really feel like sometimes a third party who isn't invested in the situation in any way, giving
Hmm.
you permission to see things differently. I don't know why it works exactly, but it's just huge.
Yeah, it really is. Um, movies. I most people love a good movie. I am not a huge movie person in general, but there are a few movies. And typically, if they're emotional movies, I cannot watch them more than once. I cannot like
Mm,
do the Titanic more than once. I can't do those big emotional. It's just overwhelming for me emotionally. So once is enough. But there
mhm,
were a couple that spoke to me in different ways all of the time that I did watch over and over again, and I just felt like they were different movies every time I watched them. I think Eat, Pray, Love was that way for me. It's a book also.
mhm.
I guess you can. I never read the book, but and you know what? A new one I just discovered not too long ago that really spoke to me differently. I've watched it like three times. Is Paris at Midnight. It's just about what about choosing happy. Honestly, that's what it's about. About him looking at things and wishing they were different and then realizing that even if they were different he still wouldn't be happy. So that's another one that's not in the book that I've recently discovered that I love. And you had at least one or two, right?
I loved While You Were Sleeping. I want the movie to end on a positive note. I want the strings to be tied up and for it to make sense. And I felt like her character was so relatable. Circumstances were just so unfortunate. And
Yeah.
she has this sort of, glimpse into something that she is missing. It's just endearing. It's funny. That's another
Yeah.
for me to want to continue to watch it. There's got to be some humor in it. And so and there are scenes that make you chuckle, but then by the end of the scene, you might be crying. So
Right.
it's just the funny, endearing thing to me is just priceless.
Yeah.
I still watch it a couple times a year at very least. It just makes me feel good. At the end, I'm just so happy.
Yeah, I mean the tool shed just represents all the ways that we learn to apply the lessons that we were discovering.
Honestly, we're both still using all of these tools.
Hmm.
We continue to learn, we continue to grow, we continue to get stuck occasionally.
Yes.
Um, I think the difference is that now we have a starting point whenever we want to recognize something or make a change. And for me, the starting point is you. I always call you and I say, okay, wait, I think I realized something.
Yes.
And you go, yeah, I saw it, but I was waiting for you to see it.
Yeah, it goes the other way too.
I think we've done that in the past few months, I think. So
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a really good place to end, I think, because when we started writing this book, we aren't experts. We still are not. Even when we ended writing this book, we were still not experts.
Exactly.
We're just simply trying to share our experiences and the things that we learned the hard way and the mistakes that we made and the insights that we discovered.
And hopefully, some of those experiences help someone else understand themselves a little better.
Yeah, and this may be the final chapter of this book.
But it's definitely not the end of our conversation. Many of these topics deserve a little deeper exploration, and some of them deserve entirely new conversations. Honestly, we're still learning.
Yeah. So while we've reached the end of this chapter,
We're still writing the story.
yeah, one bite at a time.
And whenever possible, choose happy.
Yeah. Thanks for taking this journey with us. We'll see you in our next episode. Thanks for joining us here at Connection Oasis, where we discuss real life lessons about relationships and boundaries
And becoming who you actually are without the fluff.